This week's Alaska summit on Friday between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is being billed as a breakthrough moment for Ukraine. It could equally be remembered as the last chapter in the long history of misplaced trust in the Kremlin. And the UK Prime Minister, Starmer, has issued a pointed warning to Trump: never trust President Putin as far as you can throw him. In diplomatic terms, this is about as blunt as you can get. His message is that any ceasefire without hard guarantees will be a Trojan horse, an interval for Putin to rearm before striking again. The Alaska summit's agenda is still fluid. Trump has floated the idea of a territorial swap, even hinting Ukraine may have to cede Donetsk, Luhansk, and possibly accept the loss of Crimea in return for peace. Zelensky calls that unacceptable under Ukraine's constitution, which forbids territorial concessions. European leaders, including Starmer, Macron, and Germany's Merz, have stressed nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. And the suspicion is that Trump's instinct is to start one-to-one with Putin and bring Kyiv in later. A reversal of post-1945 diplomatic norms where the victim of aggression is central to negotiations. Starmer is not opposing Trump's pursuit of peace outright. In fact, he's signalled UK support for US-led negotiations, but he is drawing two bright red lines. Firstly, the security guarantees must be embedded in any deal, and secondly, a ceasefire must not become a breathing space for Russian rearmament. This is the logic behind the coalition of the willing, a European-led peacekeeping force ready to deploy inside Ukraine to monitor compliance, protect its skies, and secure Black Sea access. Starmer is looking not to the Alaska handshake photo, but at what happens 6 months later when Moscow tests the limits of the deal. Starmer's warning is grounded in precedent. Minsk I and II in 2014 and 2015, the ceasefires negotiated under European auspices were repeatedly violated by Russia while it built up forces for the 2022 invasion. And in Georgia in 2008, Russia agreed to withdraw after the South Ossetia incident, yet entrenched its control permanently. The Budapest Memorandum in 1994, Russia pledged to respect Ukraine's sovereignty in return for nuclear disarmament and has then invaded. So it's clear that Russia has a history of being deceitful. For Western leaders, even with a short memory, trust is not a policy. The Russian state's consistent pattern is to exploit pauses in fighting to consolidate gains and prepare for renewed aggression. Trump's style is transactional. He's openly talked about good stuff and bad stuff in land swaps, implying he could deliver a quick fix by giving Putin enough to claim victory. For Zelensky, such concessions would be not only a moral capitulation but a strategic error. As he says, where there is a second territorial grab, there will be a third. From Kyiv's perspective, the battlefield still matters. Russia is not repositioning for peace, but according to Zelensky and advisors in Ukraine, Russia is preparing for another offensive. Diplomacy without matching deterrence is, in Ukrainian eyes, a surrender in slow motion. Starmer's tone reflects Britain's dual role. As a security guarantor set up during the Budapest Memorandum, the UK has been one of Ukraine's staunchest military supporters. As a European power in post-Brexit reality, London needs to show it can still shape continental security policy. If the Alaska talks end with a Putin-friendly settlement, the war's frozen conflict phase will threaten NATO's eastern flank, undermine UK credibility, and embolden authoritarian powers elsewhere. The Alaska summit could produce a fragile pause or an historic betrayal. Starmer's warning is not an exercise in cynicism, it's an attempt to stop wishful thinking from becoming policy. Trusting Putin without enforcement is like building a house on ice. It might look solid for a moment, but the thaw is inevitable. Peace in Ukraine will require more than a signature in Alaska. It will require the hard, unglamorous work of ensuring that any deal is enforceable, verifiable, and above all, made with Ukraine, not for Ukraine.